the challenge with when we date one person and we go through this whole rigmarole of getting very intense around a man is it's literally like we're going up in terms of energy intensity. We're focusing all this energy, and then when things don't work out, we're literally dropped. It's a free fall, and the emotions just crash to the ground, and we're so upset, and we're all these emotions are when actually we didn't even have much of a relationship in the first place.
And we don't even know the person.
We don't even know the person.
We just created a person in our head, right? And who knows?
Exactly.
Could be a serial killer.
No. Don't say that.
I'm gonna cut that.
Kimberly Anderson is a dating coach who teaches you how to find healthy love and relationships. Featured in the New York Times and voted one of the top 100 global women, she offers insights you won't want to miss.
Cheers to your success.
Cheers
We're so
to
happy
yours.
To have you
Thank you for
here.
having me.
So let's talk about some advice. Let's start from the positives. Green flags. What are some green flags that we should be looking for in a healthy relationship when dating?
So one of the biggest green flags, and I'm so glad you asked this question because so many women miss this, is to find a man who's available. Because a lot of women, they get into relationships with men who are married, men who are still living with their wife, men who have a girlfriend. And the problem is they say, yes, but he's such an amazing man. I'm sure that things will work out with us. He said he's going to leave his wife. And the challenge is that in very few cases does he actually leave his wife. So the first green flag is to make sure that he's available. And that he is free to have a relationship with you, or you're kind of investing your time in the wrong area. Another green flag is to look for is that he shows effort. So a man who shows effort is a man who is interested, right? So you want to see him take you out on dates. You want to see him arrange dates with you, and you not being the one arranging those dates. You want to see him buying you flowers if that's what he wants to do. You want to see him basically, you want to see him making efforts. That is a big green flag. You also want to see consistent communication. So that means that he is texting you regularly. That means that he is reaching out to you frequently. It doesn't mean that he's contacting you nonstop. It doesn't mean that you have to worry if he hasn't texted you in a few hours, but you want to see consistent and frequent communication. And that is a big area a lot of my clients struggle with because they say, well, he hasn't contacted me in a few hours. Oh my goodness, he must not like me. And a lot of these women have what we call anxious attachment, where they get very nervous when a man hasn't reached out to her. But we definitely want to see from a man communication that is frequent and that is consistent. What a woman really wants to see, and one that I guide my clients with, is we want a man who is emotionally available. So a man who is not emotionally available is basically like a man who has his windows shut. So you can't have a relationship with somebody who has his windows shut, where there's no vulnerability, there's no communication. And so emotional availability is really important. And lastly, another big green flag is that he respects your boundaries. Because a lot of men, for example, will say, if you're on a date, maybe you'll say, I'd like to go slowly in the intimacy domain. And he will say something like, let's go ahead. And he won't respect your boundaries. That was a bad example. Okay.
No, it's not. I think it's good.
Okay.
I remember I went on a date with someone like some time ago, whatever the time, doesn't matter. But yeah, he was on the first date like, so you want to come see my place? No. And then when I'm saying no, he's like, of course, giving me all these excuses and examples how somebody did whatever. I don't care what somebody did.
Yes.
I think it's a good...
Yes, and men can be extremely crafty when it comes to ways of breaking boundaries, but they're very extremely crafty and creative. I must hand it to him.
Good effort, but hey, you gotta be smarter a little bit, I guess.
That's right.
What about red flags?
So red flags is a fascinating topic. And one thing that I want to say is that women should be aware of red flags, but they should not be obsessed with red flags. Because the more we think about red flags, the more red flags we see. Because we really attract what we believe. We attract what we think about, right? So if we're thinking about red flags, we see them absolutely everywhere. What I invite women to do, and my clients, is that they think about different kinds of red flags. So one kind of red flag, for example, is a very common one, and that is controlling. An example of controlling behavior is that you're exchanging with a man and he wants to know where you are, who you're with, what you're doing. It was very interesting when I was in the beginning of dating. I was exchanging with a man online, and this man told me, and I was so shocked, and I'll never forget this. And he was serious, and he said, I hope you understand that women that I date must wear what I want them to wear
Oh my God.
when I
Next.
want them to wear, those clothes or that outfit. And I was so shocked, I laughed out loud. So it's an example of extremely controlling behavior. So
Sorry to cut you, did you meet this person or it was
no,
just
I
like,
never met him.
like,
I never
I'm
met him. That was it.
I don't blame you.
That was it. It was actually spectacular. I've
Oh
never
my-
seen anything like it.
Me neither.
Another red flag is narcissism. Now, narcissism is a word that's thrown around all over the place right now. We hear narcissism everywhere. Oh, he's a narcissist. He's a
Yeah, yeah.
narcissist. What I think is important to understand is that everybody is a little bit narcissistic. We are all a little bit self-centered. So if you have a scale, you have low-level narcissism and you have high-level narcissism. And the extreme real narcissists, clinically diagnosed narcissists, they are out to harm. They're dangerous, actually, okay? But most people are nowhere near that, thankfully. They're in a range of narcissism. And so men who are narcissistic, how will they act? They will talk over you. They are constantly talking about themselves. All the attention is on them. They are always right. They don't have any regard for your feelings. So that is narcissism. So that's a big red flag. Another one is gaslighting. Now, gaslighting is when a person basically has you doubt your sanity, has you doubt what you know to be true. So, for example, if you say to a man, or if a man says to you, for example, I'll be at the party tomorrow night, excited to see you. And you show up and you're all excited because you're going to see this man. And then, in fact, he's not there. And you exchange with him afterwards and you say to him, oh, gee, I thought you were going to be you told me you'd be at the party, you're not there. And he will say, I never told you I never told you I'd be at the party. You're imagining things. I never said that to you.
That sounds to me like a psychopath. It's like an extreme gaslighting, right?
Yes.
Wow.
And so they really have you doubt your sanity. And then the last red flag I'd say is neglecting your boundaries. So we talked a little bit already about neglecting your boundary, your intimacy boundary. There's all kinds of boundaries. Let's say, for example, one of your boundaries is you don't want to be called names. You don't want to be treated poorly. And you say, I don't appreciate when you do that, when you speak to me that way. That is something I don't accept in a relationship. But yet he keeps doing it. That's a boundary.
Why do you think that people struggle so much in relationships these days? Especially, I think you mentioned before, when we were talking earlier, you were saying that there's a lot of successful women and they struggle to find a good man. Why do you think that is?
Okay. It's a very, very fascinating question because there's two parts to there. There's the successful women, which is one part, and then
Yes.
there's why so many people are struggling in
Yeah.
relationships. So what I find really interesting is that when you look at the divorce rates over the past, since 1970, so let's look back at 1970, you would think, and people get the impression there's more divorce, it's just rampant right now. But in actuality, the divorce rate is actually the same,
Really?
about 15% in the U.S. These are based on U.S. figures.
Yeah.
In the U.S., from 1970 to today, it's roughly the same. Okay, it did peak in the 80s and a little bit in the 90s, and then it started declining. But what has changed is that less people are getting married.
I was just thinking about it. Well, yeah, sorry.
Less people are getting married. So in 1960, for example, there was about 72% of all adults who were married. And today, there's about 50% of all adults who are married. And so why is this? Well, there are a couple of reasons. First of all, people are getting married later. They are getting married in their late 20s, early 30s, whereas before it was really the early 20s. In the U.S., again, I'm
Yeah.
speaking, or parts of Europe.
Okay.
And also, many people are living together, but they're not getting married. So the statistics are changing. Now, those are just kind of fun facts, but there are other reasons that relationships are challenging today. There's a difference in what has happened for women in the past 100 or so years, and also how that dynamic changes in relationships. So, for example, women started to go to work after World War II, and they've slowly become more educated. They've become financially independent. They're now getting more diplomas than men. The statistics are amazing, and I'm 100% behind women's progress, women's independence. It is so commendable after a lot of difficulty. However, it has also caused some challenges in terms of who does what. What does the relationship dynamic mean? What does this mean for a man? What does this mean for a woman? How does that work in a couple? And there's a lot of confusion. So men are confused about their roles, women are confused about their roles, and so there's a lot of misunderstandings. That's one of the reasons that I talk about feminine energy to my clients. That is one of my main themes, and also understanding men. Because when those two go together, then you really have a solid foundation.
But what about when you mention feminine energy, and then it's the struggle of, okay, now women are doing this, what we didn't used to do here, and then now men are expecting us to do more too. So it's like, it's almost hard to balance that, like, it's like we're doing the men's job, but then you're still supposed to be more like feminine as we used to. I don't know. For me, it's confusing.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, a lot of men, I'm going to partly answer your question in a slightly different way. Men don't really know how to treat women right now. They're really struggling. I've interviewed hundreds of men, and they say, we don't dare approach a woman because we don't want to offend, or we don't want her to react in the wrong way. Women at the same time, they often want a masculine man, but yet they are very much in their masculine energy. And the challenge with this is that women who approach a man in her masculine energy, then she is reflecting back the same energy that a man has in a relationship. And that is not attractive. There's no polarity there. So that is a challenge. And what was the original? I'm trying to go back to your original question.
I don't remember. I just got sidetracked with that. It's like, okay, it's like be everything, right? Be feminine, do this, do that. It's just
So
hard
here's-
to balance it all, in my opinion. I don't know.
Yeah, so it's a fascinating topic. So here's the thing. What's important for a woman is to maintain all of her masculine energy, and without going into detail right now, because you haven't asked me the question yet, I don't know if you will. So for those who are listening, masculine energy is everything to do with thinking, right? It has to do with leading, decision making. It has to do with all these amazing things, these skills and tools that we use in the workplace, and that helps us get ahead. Feminine energy it's about being. It's about intuition. It's about kindness. It is about sensuality. It is about tapping into one's inner world. It is a huge space, and a lot of women don't connect with that part of them because they are so into their masculine side in work. And in relationships, when you were saying, do I play all the roles in the relationship? The answer is no. Women should keep this masculine energy in their work to do all the great things that they're doing. When they're in a relationship with a man, however, they want to ignite that feminine energy. They want to ignite that being that is already inside of them, but is often lying dormant. And when she brings that beautiful side of her alive, then she connects with a man. That is what inspires a man, and that's what has a man fall in love with her.
Let's talk about online dating. Now we have all these dating apps. It's easier than ever to meet more people, new people. But at the same time, it can be very overwhelming because now it's like, I don't know, it's just too many options, I guess. So you're trying to give a chance for somebody that you usually wouldn't. And then in my case, for example, if I'm on an app, it's like now you have ding, 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 ding. And it's like, I end up meeting no one because I just don't want to. I'm like, I don't even know what to do with, like, what is your advice for online dating?
Okay, so online dating is fascinating because about 70% of the women that I work with, they have success in romance through online dating. And so many women hate online dating, and so many men hate online dating. In fact, men hate it more than women because they really struggle. But I would say the key to online dating is to filter, first of all, to really filter down to the types of people that we think we might be compatible with. But not only filter, but to also be open-minded, because a lot of us, it's, again, I use the word fascinating because I love my work. It really is fascinating. What are we attracted to? We're attracted to what we're familiar with.
Yes.
Or to. So if we are used to dating tall men who are blonde and who are, who are super athletic, we might not consider a man who is maybe dark-haired, a bit more intellectual, and a different profile. So we have these types in our heads.
Yeah.
And what's fascinating is people don't realize that they could be compatible with another type until they've tried another type. So I would say filter, but also be open to what is possible and the other types of profiles that might be an amazing match. And then you'll say afterwards, once you've met them, oh, this is my type.
Take Kimberly's advice, maybe. No. But how do you change your type?
How do you
It's a
change your
tough
type?
one.
That's a great question. I think in order to change your type, you take baby steps. So little by little, you start by going on a date with somebody you would normally not go on a date with, and say, you know what harm is it to go on a coffee date or have a drink with a man that I normally don't go out with, and test it out.
Yeah. What's your advice on a first date?
Okay, so a first date, I would say, this is very obvious, but I'm going to say it nonetheless, and that is to go somewhere in a public place. Because believe it or not, on online apps, on dating apps, there's a lot of men who suggest to come to their place directly.
No,
and of
never.
course, the smart women that I work with and the smart women listening to this would never do that. But nonetheless, I think it's important, and not only a public place, but also where there are people around. Also to approach the date with curiosity. So again, like I said about, my type, you want to go into the date with curiosity, with lightness, I'm going to enjoy this, not like, okay, I have my list of criteria, I'm going in for the date, and if he doesn't fit my criteria, I'm out of here. Because a lot of women do that.
Yeah, like an interview, right?
Right, absolutely. They go in, they interview them, they have their list, and within 30 seconds, if he doesn't fit any of it, they just disregard him.
Yeah.
So I would say to go in with curiosity, go in with fun. You're exchanging with another human being, and that human being certainly has interesting things to share, stories that you might be laughing from, or things that you can discover about another human being that you had no idea existed. For example, maybe maybe he's traveled the globe sailing, and by looking at him, you would never know that. And just it's fascinating what you can learn.
So what about flirting? I hear you talk about flirting. You kind of give tips for women how to do it. Somebody
Yes.
who would like to know some more advice.
Okay, so flirting is something that anyone can do. But I think in order to flirt, what a woman wants to do is to build her fun muscle. Because when we're feeling fun, when we're feeling a little mischievous, when we're relaxed, we can easily flirt, right? So when we're not feeling mischievous, when we're not having fun, we're serious, right? So it's very difficult to flirt. And then there are concrete, easy things that you can do to flirt. One of the first things to do when you flirt is to use eye contact, because eye contact is so important. It is eyes are the window to the soul. And in flirting, eyes are number one, right? So there are a couple of examples of how to flirt with your eyes. So the first one is, if you're in a party or a cocktail, let's see, and you see someone from across the room, it's what I call the double glance. So you may have seen Peter over here across the room at this cocktail or wherever you are, and you may have seen him from behind. He hasn't seen you yet. And at some point, you're going to cross eyes with him. right? So what you want to do when you cross eyes with him is you look at him, you look away, and then you look again. And then you smile, and then you hold that look for about 3 seconds. Now the reason, here, I'm going to do it again. Okay, so Peter's over here. You see Peter, you meet eyes with Peter. I'm going to try to do it with the camera. You meet eyes with Peter, you look away, and then you look back, and then you hold and you smile at Peter, and then you look away. Okay, it's a double glance. So the reason that you do this is it looks very natural, right? It's like an accident. Oops, I saw you. I'm looking back at you again. You smile and you hold the glance. 1, 2, 3. And then you look away. And that indicates to Peter that you're interested. Because what happens with a lot of women is they go like this. They see Peter and they go, oh, I looked at him a couple times. Peter saw me.
They get scared.
Peter has no idea. Peter thinks you're looking at, Bob who's behind Peter or Mary. He has no idea. So this is
Peter.
So this is a challenge for a lot of women is they think they're communicating and they're flirting, but they're not because the man is just not getting it.
Okay.
Another way is like Marilyn Monroe. So Marilyn Monroe, I don't know if you've noticed, she's probably one of the best at this, I think, is where she puts her chin down and she looks up with her eyes. So this is, of course, when you're speaking with a man. You can't do this unless you're speaking with a man, obviously. But so you're speaking with a man, you look down, and then you bring your eyes up, and then you go back down, and you look like that. And I don't know if you can see this on camera. If you're flirting naturally, this happens naturally. But the problem is when people are tense or they're feeling nervous because they might really like a guy, they're not going to do this naturally. But a lot of times when we flirt, we do it naturally, and we look up and we look down. And that's very feminine, the fluttering of the eyebrows. It's like birds that are mating, they're fluffing their feathers.
So stay relaxed, women. Don't get nervous so you can flirt naturally.
That's right.
What about when you're on that date? How can somebody tell the difference between just having chemistry and actually being compatible with someone?
Yes. Chemistry is a real problem.
Okay.
It's a real problem for
Okay.
a lot of people, including men, because
I think men for sure. I mean,
Yes.
aren't they very,
yes,
visual?
absolutely, men are very visual. And women are visual too, though. And they'll see a man and they'll think, oh my gosh, he's so cute. Or, oh, he's so charismatic. He's so amazing. I'm so attracted to him. The chemistry was off the charts. I'm so attracted to him. And the challenge with chemistry is we start to project that we're compatible with that person. We start to think that we have an amazing relationship with that person that we literally have met. We have no idea if we're actually compatible with them. So compatibility is about shared values. It's about having a similar lifestyles, a way of living, similar goals. It's about having similar values. So chemistry is all about a feeling, and a feeling doesn't last. A feeling, you can be super attracted to someone, very attracted to a man, and that man, you finally wake up from the chemistry, 3 weeks, 3 months down the lane, and you think, my goodness, we have nothing in common.
Yeah.
We have nothing in common with each other. Or he realizes it,
And then it was a waste of time.
and it was a
ladies.
total waste of time.
Yeah. What about, let's talk about toxic relationships. If somebody is in a very toxic relationship, what's your best advice? Is it best to just walk away, or is there a way to actually fix a relationship that is already toxic?
Toxic relationships. So I would say if there are many definitions of what is toxic, right? So a truly toxic relationship, let's say, for example, you're physically abused. There's no fixing for that, right? That is 99% of the time the woman wants to walk away because she's in danger,
as
right?
they
So
should,
safety
right.
is number one. But there are other forms of toxic relationships. And I'd say what's interesting about toxic relationships is, first of all, to be aware, to build awareness about what is actually toxic. Because like narcissism, toxic relationships are thrown around. It's a word that's thrown around all the time. What is really toxic? What is not toxic? So first of all, being aware of things like red flags. What is toxic? What is not? And then second of all, to ask ourselves, what part are we playing, if any, in that toxic situation?
Right.
So for example, in codependency, there are two people in a codependent relationship, right? So one person is doing the behavior. Let's say someone is gambling away all the money in the relationship, or is a sex addict, or is an alcoholic, or is a drug addict. Those behaviors are also being enabled by someone.
That's a good point.
So a lot of times in toxic relationships, the challenge is we get into victim mode. We get into accusation mode, and we say, it's their fault. And I'm not saying that they don't have a part of responsibility, but a big part is also saying, okay, what part did I have to play in that? Because that is the secret to the healing for oneself, because we can never control someone else. We can only control ourselves. And if we understand what role did I play in that, how can I change my behavior? Why have I been behaving the way I have? Because there are always reasons. Once we've healed that parts of us, then we can enter into more healthy relationships.
So why do we attract toxic relationships in the first place if we do?
That's a good question, because many times, and I see this with a lot of my clients, we attract similar patterns in our relationships. So if we've, a lot of, it's funny, I hear this a lot, is, all men, for example, I hear this comment, all men on dating apps are married, which of course is not true. No. But there are some women that they're adamant. They are all married because they attract married men. So it's like I said earlier, a lot of times what we think about, what we believe to be true is what we attract. But also we have patterns, and these patterns are created through our belief system, through our experiences in our life, through our inner wounds, our triggers, and we continue. In fact, when we have a situation that's not healthy for us, that's actually a sign for us to say, hey, something's wrong here. This is what we need to look at. But oftentimes, because when we have something that triggers us or something that's a pattern, instead of looking at it and seeing it as a sign to do something about it, it's painful, so we turn away. And we don't want to deal with it.
So I guess to begin with, it's like when you get into those kind of relationships, you should really work on your self-love, your own confidence. So when you have a client who's maybe struggling with that, how do you coach them before they enter to dating?
So self-love is the number one thing, because essentially we can't really truly love another person in a healthy relationship without self-love. So it has to start with self-love. Through self-love comes confidence, right? But confidence comes after self-love. And part of self-love is accepting who we are, right? We cannot love ourselves unless we accept who we are. So that is the number one thing. But then there is also inner work about, healing our wounds, being clear on what is happening, what has happened in our past and our future. There are a number of steps to self-love, but it's totally achievable for anyone. Regardless of what we've been through, we can learn to love ourselves, because we are actually born as lovable, pure love. When we come into this world as babies, we are nothing but love.
What's the best dating advice that you have ever received?
The best dating advice I've ever received is probably to work on myself. Everything stems from ourselves. Everything stems from our inner journey. And when we can face our own fears, when we can face our own shadows, when we can face our own doubts, then we are able to be healthier when we go out dating. Because the problem with a lot of women is they go into dates tainted with the baggage that they've been carrying on their back. So they're going into a date, they're not going into a date fresh. They're not going into a date grounded. They're not going into a date peacefully aligned. They're not going into a date with compassion, with positive energy. They're coming into a date literally carrying bags on their shoulders. Wow. And that you can't come into a relationship that's healthy without at some point those bags are going to be unloaded within the relationship. So it's much better to start on a healthier slate when we're feeling like we're in a better place, so that we can date to go into a healthy relationship that we desire.
Amazing. I've also heard you talking about dating multiple people at once. Why do you think that that's the best approach?
So this is slightly controversial, but I really recommend to my clients that they date at least 3 men at once.
Okay. Let's go.
So to be clear, dating 3 men at once, that doesn't mean sleeping with 3 men at once.
Gotcha.
That's the small but important detail.
Okay. Good to know.
So the thing is a lot of women, they struggle with dating multiple men at once. They struggle with it because they feel bad. They feel like it's wrong. They feel like they'll be judged. The thing is that when we date one man at a time, what is a challenge for many women is that they go all in on that man.
Yes, I've done that. That's true. Yeah.
Especially when they like the man a lot. The more they like him, the worse it is.
Oh, yeah.
So literally, he's everything they want on paper, and then he's everything on top of it that they've, dreamt about, and they start getting sucked in.
And then we imagine they're going to be this certain way, which they probably are not, right?
Exactly. And so the thing is they start going all in on this man. They start focusing. They start obsessing. They start texting him all the time. They start getting very nervous. He hasn't responded to me. They start projecting their whole future together. They're getting married already, and where are they going to go on vacation, and where will they live, and which city will they live in? All kinds of things.
The whole plan is.
And the reality is that the man, he oftentimes is nowhere near what the woman is doing, right? So the woman is sending out all of this energy towards him. She's moving towards him. It's very masculine energy.
Right.
And the challenge is that is going to actually repel him. So the beauty of dating multiple men is it puts us in balance, so that we are more measured in how we approach men and how we approach dating, so that we take it slower, so that we get to know him, so that we don't jump to conclusions, so that we do have a few more plates to spin at the same time, but we take it a little bit slower. And then if it doesn't work out with this one gentleman in particular, well, we have a couple of other gentlemen that we're speaking with.
Hey. We have some questions from our social media followers, so TikTok, Instagram, and I'm gonna read you a couple of those questions.
Amazing.
So, Maria from Spain is asking, is ghosting just a part of dating now, or is it a sign of emotional immaturity?
Oh, ghosting. It is like a national sport, no matter what country we are in. I don't think it has much to do with emotional immaturity. It really has to do with a number of different things. First of all, sadly, the more ghosting becomes prominent, the more people do it. So if you've been ghosted, what do you think sometimes when you don't really want to respond to somebody, or you don't have the time, or you're busy, you think, you know what, so-and-so ghosted me, so I'm just going to ghost them. Have you ever been, for example, somewhere and someone is just so kind? They help you carry a bag, or they say, here, I'll help you put your suitcase up here, or some gesture of kindness. And you think, oh my gosh, I'm so touched. That's so kind.
Yeah.
What do we often do after that? We often repeat that gesture to someone else. So it's the same thing with ghosting. A lot of people get ghosted, and therefore they ghost. But a lot of times also people can ghost when they're in conversation and they don't know what to say. They don't know how to end the conversation.
I've done that myself, because it's like, I don't feel like I'm ghosting someone, but at the same time, sometimes I'm like, I just don't have anything to say. And it's like, if it came to a point that it's like, it is, I don't know. Maybe I sometimes feel maybe on my end, it could be some growing that I need to do. Like, it doesn't really hurt to be like, hey, I don't want to talk anymore because so-and-so, but I guess you also have a good point. It's kind of like, which way do we look at it, I guess?
I think you hit on a very important point, Nea, and that is that people struggle with communication skills.
Yeah.
Because it's not easy. We are literally stretched here, there, and everywhere.
Yeah.
And to have the words, to be able to sum it up in a way that will be kind and accepted by the other party, or leave the conversation in a way that we like, it's a skill.
Yeah,
Like we need to learn how to communicate with others. So it's very common.
Let's try to do two more quickly before we run out of time. Vic from New York is asking if man, it's funny, if man tells you on a first date, first round is on him and the next one is on me, her, what to do? She said that she didn't feel comfortable, so she left. I would leave also. I think I would be like, I gotta use the restroom, and then I would disappear. What's your take on this?
So I'd say if a man has invited us out on a date, and he is announcing at the beginning of the date, the first round is on me, the second round is on you, I would say something like, in a very feminine way, in a nice way, not a defensive way, and say something like, well, I'm used to, when I'm with friends, I split the bill, but when a man invites me, it feels good if he pays for the bill. Or when a man invites me, it feels good when he treats me.
So you would vocalize it. You would actually,
Yes.
you wouldn't just disappear.
No.
Like the rest of
No, but however, if
Smart.
he insists at that stage, then of course the woman has the total prerogative to leave. I personally think, with my experience, and I believe quite strongly about this, and that is that a man who is interested in you, if he cannot buy 2 drinks for you, it shows that he's not interested.
I agree, and that's the reason why I would leave.
Because a man who is in his masculine energy, a man who is interested, he wants to invest in a woman. He wants to put efforts forth for that woman.
Right. Last question. Alex from London is asking, how do you recommend people handle rejection in a healthy way?
Right. So I would say rejection is often a matter of perspective.
Okay.
And rejection often has nothing to do with us. Now, perhaps the person says, if they say, for example, you have blonde hair, or you have black hair, you have brown hair, and I don't like that color hair. Okay? One could take that as rejection, but actually, I would invite them to shift their perspective. It's not because someone doesn't like that you have blonde hair or black hair or brown hair that you are not lovable, that you are not desirable.
Right.
It's just the fact that you're not compatible, right? He's maybe not the right person for you. You're not the right person for him. The challenge is that we often internalize these things. We think if he is telling us information, if he's giving us data about us that's hurtful, that we take as hurtful, oh, he doesn't like my hair because he doesn't like me because I have brown hair. And that's maybe a silly example. But regardless of what it is, if we are we take it as rejection, but often it's more about compatibility.
All right. Well, any last words? And of course, obviously, where can people find you? Where can they learn more about your wisdom?
Thank you for asking. I have an amazing program that's coming up on feminine energy and mastering the language of men. So I think in this video, you're going to put a link to that. And also, they can, of course, find my content on YouTube. I post videos very regularly and on Instagram, and my handle is Kimberly Anderson.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for being here. We love you here. And of course, thanks to our sponsor, KesterBeauty.com. And thank you, Kimberly, for being here.
Thank you, Nea. It's been a true pleasure.
Bye-bye.